All right, welcome to the Claude WIF demo. So before we get into the demo, let's talk about why this is kind of an important feature. So I'm going to go ahead and look up a couple cloud credential providers here. So I have a couple. So the original one that we used to use is this API key. So before Claude WIF was available, basically everybody generated API keys. These are static, long-lived. I'm not sure when the last time I updated this one was, but once API keys are created, they can generally be used for, long amounts of time, like 6 months or a year. Recently, Claude has come up with Workload Identity Federation, and this is something new that Aembit is supporting. So this gives you really short-lived keys, and there's logging on the Claude side when these short-lived tokens are used, and there's logging on our side. So in this video, I'm going to show you quickly how to configure this, and then I'll show you it in action. So here's the configuration. We know it's working. If I click verify, you can see verified successfully. So there's a few things here. There's the OIDC issuer URL. This is something that we will copy and paste and put into the issuer config in the Claude platform. And then there's a bunch of different IDs that we need and scopes, and I'll show you where those get configured. And then lastly, there's the lifetime. So you'll log into platform.claude.com. You'll go into the organization settings, and there's a couple things you need to do here. So first, you'll want to go set up a service account. And this is the service account that I'm using. It's, honestly very simple. So I've just created the service account. I have the service account ID here, and the service account ID is what gets used here. The other thing is the organization ID. The organization ID is here. You can just copy and paste the org ID, and that's really all you need. And then the other bit is the workload identity. That's this thing. So under workload identity, there's a couple different things. There's the max time. Like I said, our default is 1 hour, and that's the default that we're going to be using. And then you can see here the Aembit issuer ID is the one that I have configured here. So if I go and I say, let's see if I can edit this. Yep. If I go and edit, you'll see where this thing gets inputted. So you give it a name, you give it the issuer ID, and then the other bit really is the rule. We'll take a look at that. So under the rule, there's a couple things to note. One is this subject pattern. The default one I'm using is this workload, capital ID, : So any workload that's coming in just for this demo is fine. And then I select the service account. And then for the OAuth scope, I have this workspace : developer. And that so yeah, that's the one I'm using here under scopes, work scope dot or : developer, and then the rest of these audience workspace ID for now, it's really not needed. So once you have that configured, again, you press verify, and then you go, and if you have a policy already, I had this policy that had the API key before, and then all I did was swap it out with Claude WIF, and we would be good to go. So I have my Kubernetes pod, which I run my commands from. I have my Claude server workload, which points to api.anthropic.com. It's using 443, and we're using a HTTP authentication bearer as the header where we inject the token. And then that's it from a policy perspective. Now, if I go and I run, oops, Let me run a command and not do the show. Well, actually, while we're in here, let's take a look at it. So here, one of the things you'll notice is I have a curl command that's going to the server workload I had pointed to, basically the API URL for all the configs. One of the things you'll notice is that in the header, I don't have anything for authentication. We'll detect it, and then we'll inject it. In this same script, I have this authorization header for OpenAI, and you can see that I'm injecting bad underscore old underscore API key. So Aembit, the Aembit proxy will actually see this in the header, know that something else needs to be used. It'll remove this bad one, and it'll inject the good header for authentication. So for this API OpenAI demo, I actually put a bad one. For this one, I didn't even include it. It's not needed. It'll know what to do based on this, and it'll inject the header and send it out as needed. So let me exit this real quick. Let me go and actually run the AI agent. And I'm going to say, tell me about, I'm just going to say OAuth. Give it a second. It's going to think. So it's making 3 different calls. 2 of them should pass. The last one is not going to work, which is expected. So you'll see here that Claude returned information about OAuth. And we know that's working. So that's great. And let's go take a look at the logs and see what we get from logging. So if I go to reporting, you can see here it made 3 different calls as expected. We knew, my agent makes calls to different LLMs. This is the one for Anthropic. So you can see it identified the Kubernetes workload where I'm running things from. It identified the server workload to the Claude Anthropic AI. It does something called attestation, where it checks with my Kubernetes cluster to make sure that the client is exactly what it should be. And then you can see here, the credential provider was Claude Workload. We retrieved a token, and we injected that into the call, and the calls all went through successfully. So really, you're going from a long-lived API key, which you really never want if the backend service supports something better, something short-lived, something just in time. You want to move to that. In this case, we moved to the Claude WIF. We also have videos available for OpenAI WIF, which was introduced after Claude's WIF, but we support those as well as a huge number of credential providers. To learn more, please go visit ambit.io or docs.ambit.io. All right, thank you.